From his propagandic symbol to his abandonment of the government he once served, Captain America's comic book stories are in many cases written to reflect the real triumphs and tragedies of the United States of America. The epitome of superhero symbolism, a patriot, role model, and leader, Captain America is the embodiment of American ideals.
Before the U.S. even joins World War II, Captain America was created to inspire young Americans. Often called America's Boy Scout, a young boy quickly becomes a great man through super soldier serum, and fights for American morals. Like Uncle Sam, he was used as propaganda at the start of the war. Throughout the coming years of the war, he served to inspire and preserve morale during wartime in this new form of entertainment, comic books. And in the fictional world, he fought Nazis, leading the charge against the Axis powers.
After the Cap's iconic disappearance at the end of the war, decades later, he was revived by the original Avengers. From then on, he continued to fight for freedom on his own and with the Avengers for years to come. However, during the tumultuous Vietnam War and the Nixon administration, Captain America began to feel disillusioned by the nation he once proudly represented. This sentiment reflected the growing counterculture movements and anti-war protest of the time. When Steve Rogers finds out that an elite government official, heavily suggested to be Nixon, is part of a terrorist organization called the Secret Empire, he ditches his patriotic garb for a neutral black and gold, taking on the new secret identity, Nomad. For an entire year, Steve Rogers fought crime without donning the Stars and Stripes. Writer Steve Englehart had this to say about the radical character change.
I think it was pretty clear that the presidency was going to come to an end. The overall deal was that Watergate pretty much consumed America. This was in an era where there are only 3 television networks, and all of them were covering the hearings that were being held at Nixon's White House. The people who were conducting these hearings were politicians on both sides of the aisle who took their jobs seriously, so even people of the president's party were investigating it seriously. So it was a legitimate enterprise that was being played out like a political thriller on television in front of the populace. That summer, everyone in America was riveted to this. And the interesting thing about it, too, was how if you unfolded like a novel, if it got to a point where maybe Nixon might be able to get away with it, some new piece of evidence might appear. So everyone was involved, and I was writing Captain America, and I thought, there's no way Captain America would not react to something this momentous in America if the Marvel universe was supposed to be the real universe.
This quote highlights the influence of real-world events on the story of Captain America and how they were in turn adapted for the comics. This change was not permanent, however. Writers soon put Captain America back in the old suit once again, and he continued to serve the ideals of the nation for the coming years. Just as Captain America's change to Nomad reflected the current progressive attitude and growing displeasement with the Nixon administration at the time, other major character changes have occurred to reflect the current populist sentiment. Reagan's administration held a new wave of conservative ideology. Captain America again gives up his status as America's mascot when he is ordered to report to the Commission of Superhero Activities. Feeling he shouldn't represent this violation of his rights and free will, he becomes the captain. Steve Rogers once again defects during the Civil War crossover event in 2006 during the Bush administration, which deals with very similar circumstances, even once again involving the Commission of Superhero Activities. This arc ends with the death of Steve Rogers before he can be tried for his actions against the government.
As all comic book deaths are, Rogers didn't last forever. After a short hiatus, Captain America was back and has now become more popular than ever thanks to his integral role in Marvel's cinematic universe. Adapted straight from the comics, some of his most classic stories are being retold today for new audiences with the same old American spirit. His first appearance is captured in Captain America, the First Avenger, where a noble young boy yearns to fight for his great nation against miraculous superpowers. The Avengers and the Winter Soldier see Rogers trying to adapt to a new world through his old-fashioned ways, which, in the latter, leads him to go rogue, just like in the comics. His iconic feud with Iron Man and the US government is portrayed in Captain America: Civil War, and afterward he even takes on the mantle of Nomad before and during the events of Avengers: Infinity War. leaving behind stripes on his shield and the star on his chest. Rising Captain America fame has also affected the comic books. As a rise to black representation in media, Cap's longtime sidekick, Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, has taken up the role of Captain America. The Falcon was the first major African-American superhero, so it was only fitting for him to represent the triumph of being America's mascot.
While many times the leaders of this nation seem to lose their way, it is the American way that always resurrects and keeps us going. Captain America is the embodiment of this nation, and while he may become disheartened, lose a battle, or even come ever so close to dying, he still gets up and rises to the occasion to stand up for what he believes in.